Welcome to a stormy day on Random Review, where I'm really hoping that the rain and the thunder is not picking up on the microphone, because I've got to get this recorded now. Last week I asked, what is your favorite mold? The one you will buy no matter what color scheme it comes out in, and I loved hearing your guys' answers, because it's always so different. I love hearing what molds everyone was, really passionate about. But one commenter pointed out this mold, Wheeljack from Transformers Prime, and I will say, good choice. I do like this mold, and it came out in a lot of colors. But one thing that caught my eye is he said that he was eyeing the Dark Energon version, but couldn't quite pull the trigger on it. So let's test that resolve today, shall we? We're going to look at the Dark Energon version. This was, of course, the Big Bad Toy Store exclusive repaint of Wheeljack, and the line had several of the major figures repainted into translucent plastics and obscure homages, and it's a interesting thing they did. They're pretty common to find, so you can tell it didn't go over that well. But I like what it came up with, because it's stuff that normally would not come out. As you can see, Wheeljack's done up as Slicer, which, to my knowledge, outside of Diaclone, is the only time Wheeljack's ever gotten any kind of other paint job. And yes, I know about the Masterpiece. It's a Diaclone character. Never mind, we're moving on. As you can see, done up in almost all translucent plastic, as most of the Dark Energon variants were. This one done in blue with some translucent red for the windshields, and it's a really striking color scheme. You know, Slicer's colors are unique, but when they actually are applied to a toy with a vehicle mode, they look quite cool. They quite menacing, very Decepticon-ish, which is why, of course, this is an Autobot. Though I do like that the sticker incorporates some of Slicer's bronze coloring, as well as it looks like it takes a little bit from the sticker he had on his Action Master toy, because it had some really thick lines around it. On the hood, you'll see some paint decoration, very angular, very cool across all the vents here. That is based on the stickers that he had in the original toy. And that is where they would end up if he actually did transform into Wheeljack. So nicely done, including that. Paint-wise, it's pretty sparse after that. The goal of this was to leave as much of the translucent plastic bare, and I have mixed feelings about that, because on the one hand, it does muddle some of the existing detail. It's very hard to make out things like the original headlights, some of the molding across the door and here in the rear. So, in that sense, it does kind of take away from some of the original designs of the toy. That said, it also reveals a lot of the plastic molding on the underside, a lot of the interior supports and struts to toughen up the parts. It reveals a lot of the pinholes and screw holes that normally would be hidden, and creates an extremely different look. Very, I'm trying to think of a good word for it. It's almost what they used to make like high-tech designs from, where it's like you can see all the circuitry underneath. And in that, he looks amazingly different from the standard Wheeljack, and quite cool. For wheels, some typical gray wheels. I do like the design on them, and they are pinned in, so he rolls exceptionally well. All very good. And on the underside, you find weapon storage. Isn't it nice? I actually remembered weapon storage this time. These are his swords, of course, with Slicer's bronze coloring. I'm heavily amused by the fact that this is the one toy based on Slicer that comes with swords, and it's not named Slicer. But this is not all we can do with the weapons in vehicle mode. There are mounting points here on the underside of the front, where these little tabs can slot into the sides of the handles to create his attack mode, which is hysterical in many ways. It's just running forward, stabbing everything at ankle height. I love the look. It's just like ridiculous Mad Max style. This like ludicrously fast car with these tusks on the front, like a warthog. With a paint job on the hood, it looked like more like a cat. Kind of like a puma. But anyways, it's ridiculous, and it's kind of fun in that kind of, you know, we're just kind of being silly and having fun way. And it makes more sense than plugging him into the sides. So that is the vehicle mode. Quite a fan. Let's transform him. And this Wheeljack toy does have quite the transformation that I quite enjoy. I'm going to start by separating out the arms, the sides, which they peg in quite a bit, so they are quite secure. Everything kind of tabs together across the top, and there's some tabs in there as well. The tabs in vehicle mode do make me worry because they're all translucent plastic. All the little connection points are translucent plastic, and as we know, I have a thing about translucent plastic handling stress under a long period of time, in that it can't, and it has a tendency to self-destruct, which is where toys like this really worry me. But that said, as long as you leave them in robot mode, everything should be fine. Nothing really seems to be problematic in that mode. Everything seems like it's just tight enough to maintain what it's supposed to look like, and nothing like no ball joints or anything where something's going to self-destruct over time. So that's okay. We'll separate the legs out here and bring them around all the way down here. The legs have probably the coolest transformation of this whole bit. You know, Prime Toys had this nice little thing where it seemed like everyone had like some transformation trick to them to make them a little bit more interesting. There we go. That's a leg. And here, did you miss it? Here, I'll do it again. 1, 2, and 3. A lot of folding, a lot of hinges to make that work. It's a really neat transformation. I quite like that about him. Prime Toys always had like one transformation trick they were really proud of. We'll bring the arms down, and then up here, where we'll fold the head out. He's way more involved than the other toys I've done for this series so far. Hang on, we need to raise these up so that they peg into the chest, like so. Line up the head, we'll get the wings out here, side. And that gives us our Dark Energon Wheeljack, aka Euro Action Master Slicer. And looking quite cool. Again, I love that it keeps so many of Slicer's colors. The grays and the blues are there. He has a little bit of the bronze. Just a little bit. And the head is where it's most important. Let me show you the head, because I think the head really works in these colors. Like, it is straight up Slicer, but Wheeljack's design in Prime in general is much meaner than you'd usually see a Wheeljack, so that does look a lot fiercer, a lot more Decepticon-ish. Again, this really probably should have been Decepticon Slicer, but well, we'll take what we can get. The toy itself is quite nice. There's a lot of new details revealed, including arms, midsections, and they worked in paint apps where they could, trying not to interfere with the original look to the toy, and trying not to mess up with the translucent plastic going on. There are some things I'm not a fan of. Slicer's torso is not well represented, and with this fake windshield here, they really should have painted this in to kind of get that across. Also, I'm missing his pink. I mean, that's the Euro Action Master thing, right? Just be as garish as possible. I'm half convinced Euro Action Master Decepticon's battle strategy was to blind opponents before the fight. So that's a little disheartening, but it still is very Slicer, very invocative of the toy. As we can see, he does have some ball-jointed shoulders and some extra little hinges there for extra. Thanks to transformation, 2 elbow joints, so he gets a good range there. Wrists fully rotate and are hinged, so that's good for a sword wielder. Neck is ball-jointed, so he's got a lot of range there. Ball-jointed hips, thigh swivel, knee bend, it's stiff, but you do get it. And he has an ankle tilt, because any really good toy has an ankle tilt. Proportionally, you will notice a bit of a gorilla arm. His arms do go down just past his knees, which is a bizarre thing, but in a strange way, that's how the original G1 toy was. So I guess even like really weird things like that can be traditional. I don't know, but whatever. It still kind of works for him. Let's bring his swords back. Now, the swords themselves I really do like. Here, we'll get him out of the way so the camera can focus. I love the little runes molded in. You know, it gives it a very kind of old style sword look to it. It's a very cool little touch. Now, of course, he can hold the swords, but first I will show you. It seems improvisational, but there are gaps in the back of him that can slot in the swords and use him for weapon storage. So that's neat. You know, again, it just kind of seems like the parts are just incidentally sized and spaced for that. So it's a little more of an inspirational thing, but inspirational, improvisational. Me word good. But I'm glad it can do that. It does add to a little bit to him. It does give you some more posing options. And of course, he holds them quite well. I am missing a bicep swivel. You know, if he could do that, then I could really get a great range of poses out of him for sword wielding. As it stands, he does pretty good. And he does look really cool with the swords. And like I said, the ball joints and the hinges in the wrists really do help give him an extra range and a little bit more definition to his poses. So there's a lot you can do with him, but there is a little bit missing here. So he's a good sword wielder, but not the best I've ever seen. So in a nutshell, that is the Dark Energon Wheeljack. I'm a big fan of the Dark Energon figures. I like the look of them. And for the most part, they seem engineered to avoid making any kind of problems with all of that translucent plastic in the future. All the major things, all the things that would cause stress like ball joints, are all done in solid plastic, and they don't interfere with the look. So all in all, really well done, really well thought toy, and a very cool and unique aesthetic. With that said, now I'm curious, what's everyone's favorite repaint? You know, it doesn't have to be a toy you own, just, I don't know, what's the toy you like the look of the best after its original release? Because that's another thing that varies a lot, and there's so many good repaints out there. And who knows, I might be inspired to throw one into the random review mix again. No promises, I'm just saying, maybe.